The war map glowed crimson. Not orange. Not warning yellow. Crimson. At the center of the projection, a small blue sphere pulsed under targeting brackets. Designation, Sol 3. Common name, Earth. Silence filled the galactic assembly chamber, a silence that only existed when extinction was being discussed as policy. The Korthari Dominion has fallen, announced High Strategist Veral. The Reth Alliance surrendered within 3 cycles. 3 outer expansion clusters have already been sterilized. The projection shifted. System after system dimmed to gray. Erased. The final highlighted star system remained. Sol. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Humans are adaptable, one delegate said carefully. They are politically divided, another countered. They are technologically inferior to coordinated fleet doctrine, added a third. On the surface, it sounded clinical. Strategic. Calculated. But something in the room felt off. Humanity had not attacked anyone. They had not expanded aggressively. They had not claimed territory outside their borders. Yet they had refused integration. Refused submission. Refused protective oversight. And that refusal was enough. The vote will proceed, Veral declared. No invasion. No occupation. No negotiations. Total planetary erasure. It was efficient. It was final. And it had worked dozens of times before. The Assembly's decision matrix illuminated. Votes registered in cascading lines of light. One by one. Until the final tally appeared. Erasure authorized. Earth would be removed before it could become a future complication. Fleet signals pulsed outward instantly. The Dominion's 7th Armada adjusted trajectory. Strike platforms aligned along pre-calculated vectors. FTL corridors were reserved. Orbital bombardment solutions finalized. In less than 6 standard hours, Sol would cease to be strategically relevant. The galaxy had done this before. It never felt this quiet. Long-range observation arrays locked onto Earth. The planet rotated peacefully beneath white cloud bands and scattered city lights. No planetary shield grid flared. No defense fleet mobilized in visible panic. No emergency broadcasts echoed across civilian bands. Just silence. Then something unexpected happened. Every major military frequency across assembly space received a signal. Simultaneously. Perfectly synchronized. Origin, Sol system. It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It didn't override communications. It simply inserted itself. Clean. Precise. Impossible to ignore. Several tactical AIS paused mid-calculation. For exactly 0.7 seconds. A delay so small it would normally be irrelevant. Except it had never happened before. The broadcast resolved into a single visual. Not a weapon. Not a threat display. Just a calm blue screen with white text. And a human voice. Measured. Steady. Unhurried. This is a pre-conflict notification from the United Earth Directorate. The chamber froze. No one had contacted Earth yet. No ultimatum had been delivered. No fleet had entered Sol's detection perimeter. Which meant they already knew. The human voice continued. We are aware of the vote taken 6 minutes and 11 seconds ago. A ripple of shock tore through the assembly. That is impossible, someone whispered. The message went on. We do not initiate wars. A pause. Long enough to tighten every throat in the chamber. But we do respond to existential threats with finality. The projection shifted. The war map flickered. Earth remained highlighted in red. Then additional markers began appearing. Around Dominion fleet staging points. Around hyperspace junctions. Around command relays. Strategic positions. All quietly outlined. As if already mapped. Already calculated. Already accounted for. The human voice finished calmly. This is your only warning. The transmission ended. No dramatic cutoff. No distortion. Just silence. In the assembly chamber, dozens of species stared at the projection. For the first time since the vote. No one felt certain. And far beyond their space, in the Sol system, Earth continued to rotate peacefully, as if it had never been marked for erasure at all. For 12 full seconds after the transmission ended, no one in the Galactic Assembly spoke. 12 seconds was an eternity in strategic command time. Verification protocols ignited instantly. Trace the signal. Confirm timestamp. Cross-check breach points. Results came back faster than anyone expected. Origin, Sol system. Transmission method, quantum burst relay piggybacking across standard military subspace lanes. Encryption, unknown architecture. Self-authenticating. Tampering probability, 0. They accessed sealed vote records, one intelligence minister said quietly. They referenced the vote time to the microcycle, another added. Which meant something far worse than espionage. It meant human surveillance capability extended into the Assembly's most secure decision matrix. The main projection shifted again. The blue screen returned. This time, data scrolled beneath it. Coordinates. Fleet registries. Historical event markers. The calm human voice resumed. For the sake of clarity, we are providing context. The chamber darkened as the war map dissolved into archival overlays. A list appeared. 37 civilizations. Each labeled with a date. Each marked with one identical designation. Preemptive hostility against humanity. Gasps rippled through the hall. Some names were ancient. Some had vanished centuries ago. Some were officially classified as internal collapse or economic implosion. One name caused immediate panic. Verati supremacy. Recorded history stated they fell due to civil war. But the human broadcast displayed something else. Footage filled the chamber. Verati warships emerging from hyperspace near the Sol border. Weapons charging. A first strike initiated. The video timestamp ended abruptly. 11 seconds later, a second clip began. The same Verati fleet. Drifting. Weapons offline. Reactor cores fused but intact. No explosions. No debris fields. Just silent warships suspended in orbit. Then data logs followed. Power cascade failures. AI command isolation. FTL matrices permanently disabled. No civilian vessels touched. No planetary bombardment. Only the military assets neutralized. The human voice continued, almost instructional. We do not retaliate against populations. A new overlay appeared. Verati homeworld biosphere status, stable. Civilian mortality spike, minimal. Infrastructure, intact. What happened to them? Someone whispered. The answer came immediately. They lost their navy. Another name lit up on the list. The Ketheri Combine. Official record, economic implosion after trade wars. Human broadcast correction. Attempted resource seizure of an Earth colony. Result, all Ketheri fleet command networks rendered permanently inoperable. Within a year, internal power blocks collapsed without military enforcement. One by one, the list scrolled. Every civilization that had struck first. Neutralized. Not conquered. Not annihilated. Corrected. The Dominion Supreme Marshal leaned forward in his command projection. This is psychological warfare, he declared. But his voice lacked conviction. Because the final data set appeared. Current fleet trajectory, Dominion 7th Armada. Projected arrival at Sol, 5 hours, 42 minutes. Fleet composition, complete. Weak points, highlighted. Every carrier group displayed. Every hyperspace exit corridor mapped. Every command ship marked with precision targeting geometry. The human voice grew slightly quieter. Erasure doctrine is inefficient. A pause. Correction doctrine preserves stability. Then came the final line of the broadcast. We are aware of your fleet's movement. A longer pause. You are aware of our response history. The projection returned to the war map. Earth still glowed red. But now, so did the Dominion fleet. And unlike Earth, the Dominion's red markers were surrounded. The transmission ended again. No threat display. No countdown. No dramatic music or alarms. Just silence. In the assembly chamber, no one cheered the vote anymore. Because for the first time, they weren't sure Earth had been marked for erasure. They were starting to suspect something else had been. The panic did not come all at once. It came quietly. Through analysts. Through cross-reference data. Through patterns that had always existed, but had never been connected. Within minutes of the broadcast, every major intelligence network in the assembly began re-examining historical collapses. Fleet disappearances. Military blackouts. Strategic implosions. At first, it looked like coincidence. Then it looked like correlation. Then it looked like design. A senior data archivist from the Phelan Directorate stood slowly. Cross-reference all civilizations that initiated first strike action against Sol over the last 3 centuries. The chamber projection shifted again. 37 red markers appeared. Exactly matching the human list. Now overlay military capability metrics. Every one of those civilizations showed the same pattern. Their initial military superiority. A sudden fleet-wide systems failure. A permanent loss of advanced combat capability. A political destabilization within 2 cycles. None of them were bombarded. None of their homeworlds were glassed. None suffered mass extinction. They simply lost the ability to wage war. A murmur spread. They dismantle navies. They dismantle power projection. They dismantle command infrastructure. A Dominion tactical strategist leaned forward. Run probability simulation. If 7th Armada continues approach. The simulation loaded. Projected engagement scenario, human response unknown. Outcome probability tree expanded. In 87% of outcomes, Dominion fleet lost operational capability within 1 hour. In 63%, within 15 minutes. In 41%, within 30 seconds. Total Dominion civilian casualties, negligible. Total Dominion military capacity after engagement, functionally 0. The Supreme Marshal's mandibles tightened. That assumes their data is authentic. Confirm authenticity of the Verati footage, someone demanded again. It was confirmed. Down to reactor signature patterns. Down to fleet hull geometry. Down to classified ship registry codes. The humans had not fabricated the past. They had revealed it. Another analyst spoke up, voice unsteady. They never retaliated emotionally. The chamber turned. The analyst continued. Look at the timing. In every case, humanity responded only after first strike. And in every case, their response targeted exclusively the initiating force. No expansion afterward. No opportunistic invasion. No occupation fleets. In fact, human territory lines had barely shifted in 2 centuries. They don't conquer, the archivist whispered. They correct. The war map zoomed out. Sol was still highlighted. But now Dominion staging sectors blinked with faint warning grids. The humans had mapped hyperspace lanes the Dominion believed were secret. They had identified relay dependencies. Energy routing vulnerabilities. AI command hierarchies. How long would it take them? Someone asked quietly. The answer came from the simulation. If their prior response speed holds. A pause. Between 9 and 40 seconds. The chamber air felt thinner. The Dominion fleet was already accelerating. Weapons primed. Strike authorization queued. And the humans had not moved visibly at all. No massive fleet mobilization detected. No defensive shield grid flares. No panic. Just quiet tracking. A junior delegate from the outer rim spoke up, voice shaking. Why send the broadcast before engagement? No one answered immediately. Then the Phelan archivist did. Because they are giving us a chance to stop. Silence returned. But it was a different kind now. Not confidence. Not superiority. It was recognition. For centuries, the galaxy had viewed humanity as volatile. Emotion-driven. Individually dangerous, collectively unstable. But the data showed something else entirely. Humans were patient. Measured. Strategic. And terrifyingly consistent. The Dominion Supreme Marshal issued a private fleet command. Maintain trajectory. Weapons hot. Do not fire without my authorization. He would not be intimidated by a message. But even as he said it, Dominion sensor arrays began detecting something strange. Human vessels were appearing, not emerging from hyperspace, not accelerating into view, just resolving at gravitational balance points, at hyperspace exit corridors, at communication relay junctions. They were not in attack formation. They were in position. And for the first time since the vote, the Assembly realized something horrifying. Earth had never been reacting. Earth had been waiting. The question was no longer whether the Dominion could erase Sol. The question was whether the Dominion would still have a navy by the end of the day. The Dominion 7th Armada crossed the final hyperspace threshold in perfect formation. 12 carrier groups. 40,000 strike craft. Planetary reduction platforms locked and calibrated. Sol's outer system came into view. Earth rotated peacefully beneath its moon. No shield flare. No defensive swarm charging forward. No frantic civilian evacuation traffic. Just quiet orbital lanes. This is intimidation theater, the Supreme Marshal declared to his fleet commanders. Humans rely on psychological destabilization. But even as he spoke, sensor officers began reporting anomalies. Unidentified vessels at lag range point 2. Contact at Jupiter's shadow, no hyperspace signature. Energy readings consistent with stealth platforms along exit corridors. The Marshal's display updated. Human ships were appearing. Not in swarms. Not in aggressive arcs. Just present. At mathematically perfect strategic locations. Behind Dominion formation vectors. Ahead of retreat paths. Across communication relay chains. They were not locking weapons. They were observing. The Marshal issued a test order. Fire a warning strike at outer relay buoy. One destroyer pivoted. A single kinetic lance launched toward an unmanned communications node near Saturn's rings. The projectile traveled for 0.4 seconds. Then it vanished. Not intercepted. Not detonated. It simply ceased to exist on every tracking grid. Simultaneously, the destroyer's weapon interface flickered. Primary cannon unresponsive. Secondary batteries offline. Reactor output fluctuating. The destroyer's engines dimmed. Shields collapsed. Life support remained stable. Crew unharmed. But the warship drifted powerless. Across the fleet, alarms began cascading. Carrier Group 3 reporting FTL matrix instability. Strike craft launch systems frozen. Command AI desynchronized. One by one. Not explosively. Not violently. Just clinically. Dominion vessels began losing function. Weapons first. Then targeting systems. Then propulsion. FTL drives locked into permanent inertial safe mode. Reactor cores throttled down to civilian-grade output. No overloads. No casualties. Just removal of capability. The Marshal roared commands. Manual override. Isolate systems. Sever network sync. It didn't matter. The shutdowns were not spreading through open channels. They were not hacking transmissions. They were rewriting hardware logic at the quantum substrate level. Within 23 seconds, 17% of the fleet was inert. Within 41, 48%. The human ships still had not fired a single visible weapon. They had not moved closer. They had not raised shields. They simply existed at control points. The Marshal's flagship shuddered lightly. Reactor output reduced to 30%. FTL drive locked. Primary weapons safed. The Marshal stared at his tactical board. Red icons were not exploding. They were dimming. Going gray. Across the entire formation. Silence fell over Dominion command channels. Then every remaining functional screen flickered. A human transmission replaced fleet telemetry. No background noise. No triumph. Just the same calm voice from the broadcast. Erasure protocols are inefficient. Across the assembly chamber, species watched in stunned quiet as the Dominion fleet drifted, powerless but intact. The human voice continued. We do not destroy populations for strategic error. A pause. We remove the ability to repeat it. The Marshal attempted to respond. His communications grid rerouted automatically. Outgoing weapons authorization signals were blocked. But diplomatic channel remained open. Only diplomatic. The human voice delivered the final statement. Your fleet will retain life support and medical infrastructure. Another pause. Engines, weapons, and FTL systems will remain permanently inoperable. Across Sol, human ships began withdrawing, slowly, deliberately, once each Dominion vessel confirmed total disablement. No pursuit. No capture. No boarding actions. Just correction. In the assembly chamber, the war map updated. Earth's red marker faded. The Dominion fleet's markers turned gray. Status, non-operational. Total Dominion casualties, 0. Total Dominion military capacity, eliminated. And in that moment, the galaxy understood something far worse than annihilation. Humanity did not rage. Humanity did not conquer. Humanity decided. And once they did, the fight was already over. The Dominion 7th Armada drifted in the outer reaches of the Sol system. Thousands of warships. Intact. Silent. Power cores humming at minimal output. Life support stable. Medical bays functional. Weapons fused beyond repair. FTL drives permanently locked. Every attempt to reboot propulsion triggered the same result. Authorization denied. Not by code. By physics. Human vessels no longer surrounded them. They didn't need to. The correction was complete. Across the Galactic Assembly, emergency session was called. Not to debate war, but to assess survival. Total Dominion military projection capability, a counselor asked. The answer came from 3 separate intelligence networks at once. 0. No ship destroyed. No crew killed. No planets harmed. And yet, the Dominion was no longer a dominant power. Trade partners withdrew quietly. Border systems declared independence within weeks. Without fleet enforcement, the Dominion's expansionist doctrine collapsed under its own weight. It had taken centuries to build that armada. It had taken 43 seconds to end it. The Supreme Marshal requested diplomatic channel. It opened immediately. The same calm human voice answered. You initiated Erasure doctrine. A pause. We applied correction. The Marshal bowed his head slightly, a gesture transmitted across the galaxy. What are your terms? The response was immediate. You will rescind all preemptive eradication policies. You will codify non-aggression towards sovereign systems. You will rebuild without expansion through force. Another pause. And you will remember. No demand for tribute. No occupation force. No resource seizure. Just boundaries. The Assembly vote to erase Earth was officially rescinded. Unanimous. A new doctrine was entered into galactic law. Humanity is not to be targeted under preemptive threat classification. Years passed. Trade resumed cautiously. Diplomatic channels reopened. Human fleets returned to quiet patrol patterns within Sol. They did not expand. They did not threaten. They simply existed. A young cadet at the Galactic War College studied the Dominion incident decades later. He asked his instructor, if humans can disable entire armadas without firing a shot, why don't they rule the galaxy? The old archivist paused before answering. Because conquest creates resistance. Correction creates caution. The cadet frowned. But they could. The archivist nodded slowly. Yes. He turned the projection toward the historical playback. The moment the human broadcast began. The moment the Dominion fleet dimmed. The moment Earth's red marker faded. They were never trying to dominate us, the archivist said quietly. They were making sure we would never try again. Far beyond assembly space, Earth continued to rotate beneath its white clouds and blue oceans. Unremarkable. Quiet. Unthreatening. But the war maps across the galaxy had changed forever. No strategist marked Sol in red anymore. Because the galaxy had learned something final. The galaxy did not panic when humans built ships. It did not tremble when they armed themselves. It trembled when they sent a message first. Because by then, the war was already over.